Are you making these? We're going over the 10 worst match mistakes next. I'm Mike Quackenbush, and thank you. Thank you for spending part of your day here talking with me about the weird and wonderful art form of professional wrestling. I recently looked at my YouTube analytics, and I was stunned to see how much the channel has grown since I last looked. How many new viewers and subscribers we have here. So if you are new to this, if you just subscribed, if you just joined the Till We Make It tribe, thank you very much. Thank you to my newest patron, Showzone, who's supporting this channel over on Patreon. There's a link to that down below in the descriptus. But I never like to take for granted that people know who I am. So especially if you're new to the channel, if there's a job in professional wrestling, chances are I have done it. Over the last 30 years, I've wrestled some 2,500 matches all over the planet. In addition to which, I've trained more than 1,000 wrestlers in dozens of countries. I've produced over 500 live wrestling events. I've written 9 books about professional wrestling, and I'm working on my 10th one right now. It is on track to be out later this year. It's going to help you wrestle your best matches ever. And of course, there's this online repository of wrestling knowledge I've compiled right here on Till We Make It. This is the 612th video I've made for the Till We Make It project. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Let's get right into the meat of today's material. I've composed for you my list of the 10 worst match mistakes, and let's dive in. Number 1 on my list of match mistakes is committing time to chain wrestling when that chain wrestling doesn't build to anything, it doesn't pay off in any way, and it doesn't connect to the rest of the match. At the very least, the chain wrestling has to establish your personality to the audience. And it should highlight what makes you different from your opponent, because a wrestler who is a giant shouldn't wrestle the exact same way as a wrestler who is technically precise. Okay, number 2 on the list is choosing spots for your shine which in no way confirm your value to the audience. And if you're hearing that and you're thinking, Mike, I do not understand what you mean by that, fear not, I'm going to break it down for you right now. The spots that you choose for Act 1 of your performance have to confirm what your in-ring value is to the audience. So if your in-ring value is supposed to be raw power, then you need to choose spots that confirm that power to the audience. If your in-ring value is your acrobatic prowess, you need to choose spots for Act 1 that you can flip and fly through to confirm to the audience your acrobatic prowess. This third mistake is a biggie, so listen carefully. It's not leaving room for the 4 C's during your in-between beats. And let's talk about what those 4 C's are quickly. Number 1 is comprehension. Are you leaving enough time in the in-between beats for the audience's comprehension to catch up with where you're at? Remember, wrestlers have wrestle brain. The audience does not. Number 2, are you allowing enough time in the in-between beats for the camera operators to get to their next shot, for the camera work to complement the wrestling that you're doing? Number 3, are you leaving enough time in the in-between beats for the commentary to explain what just happened to the home viewer? And 4th, and perhaps most important of all, is character work. Yes, you gotta work the crowd. You gotta show your character off. Let them be part of the performance too. This 4th mistake is running rampant through wrestling right now. It's failing to infuse the material that you called in the back with the illusion of conflict. And the illusion of conflict means that it can't look like you're practicing. It has to look like it's spontaneous and it's organic. So you've got to go for the win whenever possible. If you knock your opponent down, you got to try to pin them, because if not, there's no conflict. You aren't trying to win. If you get an advantage over your opponent, clamp a hold on them and try to make them submit. Before we break down this fifth one, would you give me 1 second and one tap of your fingers and leave me a like-a-palooza on today's video? Thank you for doing that. The fifth mistake I want you to avoid is deploying either a hope spot or a hot tag before the audience is ready for it. If the audience is not calling for a hope spot, they're not calling for a hot tag, if the only reason they signal they are ready is because you are coaching them from inside the ring, or in the case of a tag match, coaching them from the apron to give the appropriate response, don't do it out of obligation. Wait until the heat has built appropriately and then hit that hope spot. Use that hot tag. Tell me how this sounds. If I could give you 175 till we make it videos that will never be seen by the public for just $5, would you take that deal? If so, jump on the link down below in the descriptus and join us over on Patreon. Memberships start for as little as $5 US. If you've got a PayPal account or a credit or debit card, you can join right now and you will unlock all those Patreon exclusive videos on subjects just like what you've seen at the bottom of the screen. These are actual episodes I've recorded that only my patrons get to see, and I'd love to include you in all of that. I'd love to add you to the roll call you see at the end of every one of these Till We Make It videos. If that sounds like a deal for you, then I'll see you over on Patreon. Thanks. This next one is so important. Number 6 on my list, don't engage in wrestling cliches. You know what I mean by this? I'm going to describe a wrestling cliche to you right now. You're in the dead center of your match, and a heel has a chin lock clamped on you, and you're going to slowly fire up to your feet, give them 3 elbows, take off for the ropes, you're going to duck something, and come back with some kind of roll-up, flash pin, crossbody, etc., which the heel will then kick out of and cut you off immediately. That is a wrestling cliche. And when you indulge wrestling cliches, what it says to the audience is, I have nothing new to add to the conversation. The 7th match mistake you've got to avoid is ignoring the ref's count. The ref's authority over the match maintains the fictional context of professional wrestling at all times, and they should be able to call the match like it is a shoot. So don't ignore the ref's count, or in a worst case scenario, make the referee hold up their count because you're moving too slow. The 8th match mistake is not masking your in-ring communication from the audience. If paying customers are willing to suspend their disbelief in order to enjoy some professional wrestling, you had better respect that. They paid their money. It cannot look like you're just standing in the ring talking to each other, figuring out what's gonna come next. You are effectively taking them out of the experience. You're making it impossible for them to suspend their disbelief. They should be furious. Here's a true thing about me. I see every new Batman movie the day it comes out, and this has been true since 1989. I pay good money to go in knowing that Batman is fictional because I want to have an experience that places me in that world. And if something took me out of that experience, like the director stumbles into the shot and says, "Oh, sorry," and then runs off camera in the middle of the movie, I could not suspend my disbelief. You would have to refund me my $15 and whatever I paid for the cherry Coke and the popcorn too. Number 9 is not introducing an obstacle for the babyface to struggle against in Acts 2 and 3. The finish of a pro wrestling match is the climax, and that is the moment of highest dramatic tension. And you can't heighten the tension to a climax when there's no obstacle for them to struggle against and eventually overcome. This 10th one is really powerful, so listen up. It's when the finish that you choose for your match doesn't align with the rest of the storytelling. Here's an example. Let's say you spend all of your match attacking the head and neck of your opponent. You're using DDTs and brainbusters and pile drivers galore, and then you make them tap out to a Boston Crab, a move that affects the back. That's a mistake. That finish doesn't align. So there it is. That's my list of 10 match mistakes. I've made them all. I make lots of mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. What's on your list of match mistakes? Will you tell me down below in the comments right now? Let's have a conversation down there. Appearing on screen is a link that will take you directly to my Patreon. It's an orange box with something that kind of resembles a P. Click on it, jump over there. You can start unlocking those 175 exclusive videos I told you about. You'll get my weekly advice for wrestlers. It's called Tidbit Tuesday. You can join our Discord. There's so much going on over there, and we would love for you to join us.